Hey guys, this is Pratik from Mr. Phone, and raise your hand if you or someone in your family owned a Moto G series phone. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you would have crossed paths with at least one Moto G series phone, and back in the day, they used to be the go-to choice for anyone looking for a reliable smartphone that didn't burn a hole in the wallet. Well, after launching the Moto G8 Power Lite, the company has now come up with the Moto G9, and in this video, I'll give you my first impressions of this device and also walk you through its unboxing. So without any further ado, let's get on with the video. But guys, before we get on with the video, make sure to hit the bell icon and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, so that we can reach the 3 lakh subscriber mark as soon as possible. Now that you've done that, let's get on with the unboxing and first impressions of the Moto G9. Now, Motorola has really upped the ante in the design department this year, and the Moto G9 is undoubtedly one of the best looking smartphones in the segment. Now, although the phone has been constructed in entirety out of polycarbonate, it looks excellent and feels oddly premium to hold too. Plus, I am in love with this purple paint job. It hits a sweet spot between a shimmery glossy finish and a matte coating, and I haven't really come across many phones with a purplish back. Also, there's a very subtle gradient present on the back, and you'll notice how the phone darkens around the edges, which made this a lot of fun to shoot too. So yeah, this phone is definitely going to attract a lot of eyeballs, and you can even opt for a green colorway if you prefer that shade more. Now, as good as the Moto G9 looks, it's built really well too, and I didn't notice any creaking issues with the frame of the phone. In fact, I accidentally dropped it on concrete too, but managed to get away with so much as a ding on the phone. The company also claims that this phone is splash proof, so you should be a-okay even if it gets a little wet in the rain. Now, as for ergonomics, I won't lie, the Moto G9 is barely a one-handed phone and is quite chunky at 9.18mm. But what I will say is that the phone is exceptionally grippy thanks to its flat edges, and the weight distribution is spot on too, so I never felt that the phone was top heavy. Still, owing to its tall frame, I advise you not to do a lot of finger acrobatics with the Moto G9. Now, before I talk about the phone's display, allow me to quickly give you a tour of the phone's I/O, and towards the back, you'll find the fingerprint sensor embedded inside the Moto Dimple, which worked really well during my initial stint with the phone. It's positioned just right and was quite responsive too, although the phone's unlocking animation could have been quicker. You also get facial recognition with the phone, which isn't as quick, but thanks to the handset's lift to wake functionality, it is a more seamless way to get into your home screen. Now, towards the top, you'll find a 3.5mm headphone jack, and at the bottom there's a mono speaker grill along with a USB Type-C port for charging. Oh, and as has been the case with other Moto phones launched this year, you'll also get a dedicated Google Assistant key on the smartphone's right-hand spine, which lets you do this.
What's the weather tomorrow? Set an alarm for 7 o'clock in the morning.
Now, as for the display, you can tell that Motorola has made some compromises here, as the Moto G9 comes with an HD Plus display, a 6.5-inch HD Plus LCD display. Now, while the screen isn't as sharp as something you'd get with the Redmi 9 Prime, it's still pretty good for the price and offers little to no color shift when viewed at an angle, and it also gets reasonably bright. Now, I have reached out to the company to get me an exact number on the brightness, so stay tuned for that. Also, you get Widevine L1 certification here, so you can stream shows from Netflix and Prime in 720p. Now, my only qualm with the display is that barring its relatively low resolution, it is surrounded by chunky bezels. Now, while I am willing to look past the dewdrop notch, the bottom chin is just a little too thick if you ask me, and it does take away a little from the viewing experience of the phone. Oh, and don't worry, you do get some display protection with the phone, albeit it's not from Corning. Now, the company claims that the display protection is as good as Corning's Gorilla Glass version 3, so make of that what you will. Now moving on though, the Moto G9 marks a first for the company in the performance department, and it's the first handset in India to come with Qualcomm Snapdragon 662 octa-core processor. The processor works alongside 4GB of LPDDR4 memory and 64GB of built-in user expandable eMMC 5.1 storage. Now the company claims that the Snapdragon 662 processor is a step above the Snapdragon 665 processor, but the CPU configuration as well as the fabrication, so they're both 11nm chips, it's exactly the same on the two SoCs. Regardless, the 662 is a decent mid-tier chip, and while I'm yet to fully push it to its limits, it's held up well so far. Now I didn't notice any major lag whilst jumping in and out of apps, and casual games like Clash Royale ran just fine too. Now if you're more into playing PUBG, then unfortunately the best the G9 can do right now is balanced in medium or smooth and high, meaning you'll only get 30 FPS gameplay with the phone at best. Now I'll talk more about that in my full review, so for now let's take a quick look at the cameras on offer here. Now, if you're into photography, then the camera specs for the Moto G9 will really entice you because you get a 48 megapixel Samsung GM1 sensor as the main camera on the back, along with a 2 megapixel macro sensor and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. For selfies, this phone comes with an 8 megapixel selfie camera up front. Now, bear in mind that this is just a first impressions video and I'm still in the process of testing the cameras on the phone, but so far I'm quite impressed with the daylight photos, which exhibited pleasing colors and good details. Here are some samples for you to browse through. Now lastly, as is the case with all Motorola phones, this one too comes with stock Android 10 and it is running the July Google security patch as well. I'd also like to point out that you get the same Moto UX features along with Moto actions like karate chopping to turn on the flashlight, which you got with the more expensive One Fusion Plus. And just like every other Moto phone launched this year, the G9 too comes equipped with a beefy 5000 mAh battery, and quite interestingly, you also get a 20-watt charger in the box, so not only can you expect long battery life with the phone, it should refuel back to 100% very quickly too. So the Moto G9 has been launched in India at a price of Rs 11,499, and for the price the phone actually faces a lot of competition. Now my full review of the Moto G9 will be out shortly, but in the meantime do let me know what kind of videos would you want to see around this smartphone. Do you want to see a performance comparison with say the Helio G80 chip, or maybe a camera comparison with a similarly priced device, or even with a much more expensive device? If you guys want it, we'll make it. But for the time being, do let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this video and what do you make of the Moto G9 in general. As always, do share this video with your friends and like it if you enjoyed it. Until next time, this is Prateek from Mr. Phone signing off.